Hi, U.S. President Donald Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent believe the renewed economic strangulation campaign has legs, given the perceived success of the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports, even if countries like China, Russia, and Turkey refuse to sign on to their planned barricading of the Islamic Republic. Despite threatening to sanction countries that do business with Iran, U.S. diplomats suggest that Messrs. Trump and Bessent see the blockade rather than sanctions as the core of their campaign. The diplomats point to reports that the amount of Iranian oil readily available to Chinese buyers, including the country's teapot refineries, is rapidly diminishing because of the blockade. Market participants note that 40 million barrels of Iranian crude loaded onto tankers anchored off Singapore and headed for China, by far the foremost buyer of Iranian oil, is unlikely to be replenished anytime soon. The participants said the Chinese refiners, presumably eager to escape U.S. sanctions, could be forced to source their oil elsewhere, given that another 41 million barrels of Iranian oil are stuck on vessels in the Gulf that the U.S. blockade has so far prevented from exiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Even so, the pain inflicted on Iran by the strangulation campaign, coming on the back of 47 years of U.S. sanctions against Iran, may not be the straw that breaks the camel's back. If anything, it could stiffen Iranian hardliners and persuade them to opt for a renewed round of fighting, despite calls by some senior officials, including President Masoud Pezeshkian, for an end to the war. Proponents of a negotiated end to the war, like Mr. Pezeshkian, and hardliners, such as Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC commander Major General Ali Vahidi, agree on Iran's war goals, including Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz and Iran's right to enrich uranium, but differ on how to achieve them. Mr. Pezeshkian, alongside Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and lead negotiator Mohammad Bagher Khalibaf, believe that Iran risks losing its leverage in negotiations the longer it refuses to return to the negotiating table. No matter how much military power we have, we won't survive if people are hungry and we don't have financial turnover, economic growth, and national production, Mr. Khalibaf told a gathering of Iranian and Iraqi business people. Monsieur Pezeshkian and Khalibaf's problem is that Mr. Trump's coercive, all or nothing approach that demands a de facto Iranian surrender gives them no leg to stand on in a country with a historical record of preferring to go down fighting rather than be seen as having surrendered. Mr. Trump has further undermined the position of proponents of a negotiated resolution by seemingly reverting to his early war goal of regime change in Iran, from which he backed away for much of the past 6 months. We are going to collapse this regime, Mr. Bessent said in a CNBC interview, in which he discussed Mr. Trump's economic strangulation policy without revealing how it would achieve its goal, beyond threatening to impose sanctions on any country that does business with Iran. The problem is that even if Tehran is prepared to return to diplomacy, there is little indication that Trump wants to return to the previous terms. His new economic campaign suggests that Washington may instead use Iran's growing difficulties to demand more, said Iran analyst Hamidreza Azizi. This is creating a vicious circle. The longer the confrontation continues, the stronger the economic case for diplomacy becomes. But the more Washington increases pressure, the harder it becomes for Iranian leaders to make concessions without appearing to capitulate, Mr. Azizi added. Mr. Trump's return to the goal of regime change is likely to curry favor among the Islamic Republic's foremost detractors, including Israel and the United Arab Emirates. The UAE suspended trade, commercial, and financial dealings with Iran a day before the Trump administration threatened countries that do business with Iran, after Iran targeted Emirati vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz without coordinating their passage with Iranian authorities and launched missiles at the UAE. The aim is to prevent regional states from adopting positions that could allow Iran to gain the upper hand, said Mr. Azizi, referring among others to Oman, the only Strait of Hormuz littoral state alongside Iran, which is negotiating with the Islamic Republic the post-war management of the waterway. Similarly, Israel has long feared that negotiations with Iran would leave the regime and its nuclear program in place. We're watching a strategy, whether it takes a short time or a long time, that is very much about fundamentally changing the future of the world by seeing the end of this regime, said Richard Goldberg, a senior advisor at Washington's hawkish pro-Israel Foundation for Defense of Democracies, who focused on Iran as a National Security Council official during Mr. Trump's first term in office. The Trump administration's revival of its regime change objective reinforces the Islamic Republic's perception of history as one of continuous struggle for survival in the face of U.S. and Israeli efforts to undermine, if not overthrow, the regime. Islamic Republic officials see regime change as a thread that starts with a failed military coup in 1980, the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the mushrooming of U.S. military bases in the Gulf in the 1990s, U.S. and Israeli support for Kurdish and Baloch militants, the son of the exiled Shah, the controversial Mujahideen al-Khalq, or People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, mass anti-government protests in December and January, and ends with the wars in 2025 and 2026, in which Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, senior military and political officials, and Iranian nuclear scientists were killed. The perception of history as a struggle for survival has shaped Iran's political, military, social, and economic structure, with an emphasis on self-sufficiency. Iran has engineered a social structure and sanctions evasion system that insulate the Islamic Republic's elite from the economic hardship caused by sanctions and blockades, said Middle East scholar Omar al-Ubaidli. As a result, Mr. al-Ubaidli argues that the United States, Gulf states, and their partners should target Iran's elite rather than opt for sweeping economic strangulation. To do so, Mr. al-Ubaidli suggests disrupting front companies, tightening scrutiny over illicit financial flows, targeting intermediary logistics and shipping networks, exposing beneficial ownership structures, and constraining the IRG's access to hard currency and commercial infrastructure. Ultimately, the objective should not be to eliminate rivalry or permanently transform Iran's worldview, which are unrealistic ambitions, but rather to fashion a deterrence architecture capable of reducing the frequency, scale, and appeal of aggressive action, thereby limiting the immense human economic costs that violent conflict imposes on all parties involved, Mr. al-Ubaidli said. Thank you for watching or listening to The Turbulent World. I'm honored that you spend time with my work, given that we live in a world of information overload, in which time and attention come at a premium. The Turbulent World offers in-depth, independent, evidence-based, and original geopolitical analysis of the Middle East, the Muslim world, and the rise of civilizational leaders that goes beyond what mainstream media offer. Paid subscribers make the Turbulent World possible. They have full access to all postings, podcasts, and videos, as well as the newsletter's multi-year archive. They can post comments, and get one-on-one briefings on demand. Please consider becoming a paid subscriber. This is as good a time as any other to subscribe. You can do so by going to jamesmdorsey.substack.com. Thank you, best wishes, and see you soon.